There is an important remark by André Malraux,
Yes.
whom you know very well, at least his work, who in 1976, not long before he died, said, "The most powerful civilization humanity has ever seen. Our civilization is capable of destroying the earth, but incapable of educating young people spiritually." Why?
Well, I'm not a philosopher. I'm just a modest practitioner in international relations and an historian. An historian tries to understand the past, possibly to predict, but I'm very dubious whether they predict too much of the future. So this is a question for more of philosopher, but obviously we go back to, I think, one of your main topic, and certainly one of the main topic of the essay, wonderful essay you kindly distributed among us. We come to the core, to the central importance of education. This morning, when we were talking about European Union, for instance, and I'm a European, as some of us, it was absolutely right when Garand said we don't have a story, narrative, and epic, but we don't have we haven't put the cultural and the educational dimension at the forefront of what could unify Western Europe. In none of the treaties, Lisbon, Maastricht, and the culture come at the forefront of European experiment. So if you don't have that as the glue, as the dominant factor which can put together countries that had until recently a very divided history, if we think, for instance, of East and Western Europe, where could you find it alternatively? We have lost enormous time on the Christian roots, which are not the important factor, because it's obvious that the Christian roots are shared by some and not by others. But if you enter into a cultural dimension, then you can find something else.
Mm-hmm. I think you also have to talk about values and shared values as part of the education of younger people, of everyone. If you think about it, I'm going to make a gross caricature here, but American society is highly individualistic. It gives weight to the individual above all else. Chinese society, if I may, is highly communitarian, and the community and the collective is given greater weight than the individual. I think in Europe tries to find a balance between individual liberty and some communitarian aspects, like having national health care schemes, or social security systems, or publicly funded universities, or publicly funded culture and art. And I think for me, that's a very attractive model, because you have individual freedom, but we accept that as individuals, there are some things we have to do collectively and share them to bind our society together. But I think that model would not work in the United States. There would not be acceptance of pooling resources for all of those things. But I think that's how I think about it.
That's the reason why, if I may jump in, that's the reason why I have the impression that for some of us in the two panels, liberalism come too close to conservatism. They are two different issues, completely different issues. If we come back from the radical Whigs of the 19th century, liberals was at that time relatively revolutionary, because as a liberal, what you don't want is that your private values are attacked or dictated by others. Yeah. But if the state makes limitation in the interest of the community on some of my professional activities, why should I, as a liberal, not accept that? So I think that you can be liberal in some of your values, which are perhaps the core of your values, while sharing the need of collectivity with others.
Well, there is an added to this. There is a quite interesting remark by W.H. Auden in 1947.
Yes, very good.
Who wrote, "If I'm convinced that the Nazis are wrong and we are right, what is it that validates our own values and invalidates theirs? How do we know which values should be cultivated?"
What kind of question?
No, frankly,
it's a remark by Auden.
Auden is the man who left England.
Yes, I was about to say so.
when it got dangerous.
Well, nothing.
And he left. He was gone No. There was no sense of any, this is the kind of mischievous comment that sometimes appeared that can drive one crazy. It's like Simone Weil, whom you quoted before. In 1939, she wrote that France does not have any moral right to resist Hitler until it gives up its colonies. That seems to me to be completely mischievous. That is not a serious question. And, it is not the case that just because I think X and you think Y, that there's no way to know.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there are two issues here that are partly in tension with one another. And this question of culture and the arts, I think, speaks to both of them. So, in a sense, kind of, one aim of, having, the state subsidize the arts is because, and this goes to the point that Mauricio was making, it's because it actually fosters understanding, sharing, dialogue, communication. It creates basically a common language. Now, of course, the risk of that is that you can basically it can end up meaning a sort of cultural relativism to the extreme, which is where you get to the sort of, the Simone Weil dilemma, in a sense.
He's full of Weil. Weil is the other one.
Yeah.
She's with W.
So I think there's a second purpose to the arts and culture, which is really that of pausing and regaining meaning, right? I mean, sort of rediscovering, providing you the opportunity to slow down, to stop, to take in, to feel, right? And this has nothing to do, actually, with the understanding of the other. I mean, something that happens in the head. It's more something that happens in the heart and the gut. And ultimately, if, say, in Europe, we are to do many of the things that we talk about, we have to, buckle up and defend ourselves and competitiveness and all of that, you need to have a sense of why is it you're doing it? What is it that you're protecting? And if you don't have the role of the arts and culture that actually provide you with that space to figure out what is it that you're actually defending and protecting, then what are you doing it for? And therefore, people are not persuaded and therefore vote in all sorts of different directions.